Welcome everybody, Jason Poto, Managing Director of Alliance Corp Property Experts, here to have another chat with you. And today the question we're going to ask, one that is asked of me many times, Jason, what is the best residential type of property I should be putting in my portfolio? And we're not talking about locations here, we're talking about, we're talking about houses, townhouses, dual income properties, established properties, new properties, cash flow positive, negative, neutrally geared. There's just so many options. And my response is always the same. I can't answer that question unless I understand your financial position, your current financial position, which includes your borrowing capacity, your equity position, and most importantly, your financial goals. You have to remember that what you're trying to achieve here is to achieve certain significant financial goals in your life. And for everyone, they're different. And your starting point in terms of building your portfolio is also very different to other investors. Some of our investors are very young, they're in their early 20s, and all they have to start off with is a small cash deposit. Then of course we've got other investors that are already nearing retirement and might already have their home paid off already with a number of properties, and they might have over $1 million worth of equity and very strong incomes. So everyone's starting point is different, and everyone's financial goals are different, and also the timelines are very different. As I mentioned earlier, people looking to retire might only have a very short horizon there to build their portfolio. One thing you do need to remember though, in order to build a portfolio, if we're talking about the buy and hold strategy, in order to buy these properties, you've got to get funds. Okay, so you're not buying them with cash, you've got to borrow money. Every time you buy one of these properties, that particular property will affect your borrowing capacity on the next purchase. So it's really important that before you even think about what location or what type of properties, you have to work out what sort of return, what sort of cash flows do you require on these properties in order for the bank to keep lending you the funds. That is the most important aspect to start off with, because what is the point in researching certain locations and spending all this time focusing on a particular location if all you're going to find is that the property that sit in that location don't meet your financial requirements? To give you an example, I often have clients that walk in the door and the first thing they ask me is, Jace, where's the high growth locations? Just tell me which suburb I need to buy into to get the high growth property. It's the wrong question to ask, because I can answer that easily. If you think about Melbourne, some of the best locations are in the inner suburbs. Inner suburbs close to major capital cities. For example, I live in Middle Park. Middle Park has averaged around 9 to 10% growth on average. It's one of the best performing suburbs in Melbourne. But if you were to buy in Middle Park today, even to get a single fronted terrace, you'd be lucky to get anything under $2 million. And if you were to rent that out, you'd be lucky to get $1,000. So if you think about the rent that you would receive on that property, you could have holding costs of $300, $400, even $500 a week on some of these properties. That is not sustainable for people who are looking to build a portfolio. While it might receive good capital gains, that is going to destroy your borrowing capacity, particularly if you're not a high income earner. So what you must think about first is, well, what are my financial goals? What am I trying to achieve? Do I need capital gains in my portfolio? So this is often when you're starting out and you're young, you often need those capital gains. Or if you're close to retirement, you've already got quite a bit of equity there and you're really chasing properties that are high yielding. Because when you're in retirement, you want to pay off some of those properties by selling some of the remaining properties and end up with very high yielding portfolio to provide you with the cash flows that you need in retirement. The other consideration is obviously your borrowing capacity. If you have a very low borrowing capacity, you need to make sure that you're buying properties that are either neutrally geared or cash flow positive. Because if you have a very low borrowing capacity and you purchase a property that's heavily negatively geared, when you go to the bank to get your second property, you won't be able to get the funds. So you'll only get stuck on one purchase. And unfortunately, this is the biggest problem with investors. The majority of investors out there, 95% of investors, only end up purchasing 1 to 2 properties. It just simply isn't enough when you think about achieving significant financial goals. So my advice to you, there are so many different options. You really need to get professional advice. You really need to do an assessment first on your borrowing capacity, do an assessment on your equity position, your ability to cover deposit monies and stamp duties, because that will also determine the types of properties that you might purchase. read up on all the different types of properties. For example, at the end of this video, you'll be given the opportunity to download this guide. This is a guide to understanding different property types, so make sure you download this and have a read through that. On top of that, I'm also going to throw in this guide on buying house and land packages, because a lot of investors are asking about house and land packages at the moment. One of the reasons for that is that house and land packages have become very popular because you can buy them, they're neutrally geared, they're easy to rent, and they're still very affordable. You can still buy them for around 500, 550,000 in growth corridors in Melbourne. So it makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. So my advice to you is do it the right way. You know, you've got too much at risk here. Don't end up like 95% of investors that just end up with 1 or 2 properties. Get professional advice. Have someone assess your borrowing capacity, your equity position, and have a property wealth planner help you design a portfolio that allows you to buy multiple properties over time to achieve your financial goals. Your current financial position and your financial goals will determine the types of properties you should be buying. All right, that's what determines it, your current financial position. That's what determines the types of properties you should be buying, because the types of properties you buy today will affect your ability to buy more properties in the future. And everything you do is about structuring a portfolio in a way that allows you to keep going back to the banks, having them approve your funds to keep building your portfolio, and obviously structure your finance in a way using a master facility that means that your cash flows are managed for you. So I hope this advice has helped you out. Make sure you download these ebooks and have a read through those, and we've got plenty more on our website. Thank you.